I hope it is very much kind of like a, a scenario where like all the books that are making money, they don't get
Shut
touched.
the fuck up. Ah, damn, neighbor's dog always barking at the wrong time. Shut the fuck up. All right, go keep going, bro.
Yeah.
I did see a tweet from BJ Kicks, aka Comics Are Dope, and the tweet says the following: Mark Waid and Scott Snyder running DC. Bendis coming back to Marvel. It feels like comics just keeps recycling the same names over and over, and all the fresh stuff is limited to 6 issues or less. I brought this to the group chat, and I also responded to it as well. And I was mainly talking about it from a DC side because we mainly cover DC here. So I said, there's been plenty of new talent growing and working alongside the OGs at DC. You have Ram V, you have Kelly Thompson, you have Nicole Maines, you have Al Ewing, you have Philip Kennedy Johnson, Jeremy Adams, Denise Camp, and so on and so forth. And I said, we've seen several minis transition to longer projects if the support warranted it. Don't see the issue. At least on the DC side, yes, Mark Waid did come back because Mark Waid is gone for a while. It's not like he's been there for a while. He did come back. Scott Snyder did come back. They're working alongside Williamson and everybody else. And yes, you could consider them the architects of DC. But there's also fresh talent growing underneath them. I felt like this tweet warranted a bigger conversation and especially more context. So, Steph, what are your thoughts about the current architects, and do you believe there's like a gatekeeping, or it's just going to be these guys shepherding the lines, or can you see a scenario where the newer guys will eventually rise up?
I think here's what I think is going to happen. I think because of just how much they have contributed to both companies and how much money they've made both companies, and obviously Scott in particular, with all of this, all in absolute, like him being the architect for that whole thing, right? So he's got a lot more clout than he previously had, Scott, I don't really know how old Scott is. I mean, he's younger than Mark Waid, and he's definitely younger than Bendis, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of like he's not super young, and he's definitely not, like new to the whole industry, obviously. Yeah. But
he's 49 years old, by the way.
He's 49 years old. Okay. It doesn't really feel like he is like spinning his wheels. Mark Waid, obviously, I can sit here and say the Justice League book and the world's finest book and whatever. Well, they're McDonald's, right? When you've got like Ram V Tech, and you've got like all these other like Batman books and all these other Superman books that are actively like very engaging in their own right, and they actually like interrogate aspects of the character and whatever. Having the fun goofy McDonald's World's Finest book, perfectly fine. Bendis coming back to Marvel, yeah, it just feels like eventually Waid and Bendis, those two in particular, are just at the age where they're gonna have to let it go eventually. Snyder can stay for a while. I do get what they're saying, because like even like the concept of like Marvel going back to Bendis, it just feels like relying on the old guard more than what is seemingly necessary. They might just be scared. They're scared of what it means to let go of industry titans like this. I mean, to a degree, even with Snyder, I get what they mean, because like you had the guy who, he is like kind of the modern Batman writer, and you come back and make him do more Batman.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's I love Absolute Batman. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that as like a negative or whatever, but like he was in his prime in New 52. He was doing all these sorts of Batman books. He was doing other events. and then all of a sudden he comes back and he's doing exactly that again at a time where they kind of need to be doing that. Seems like they're, not willing to give to some people, I guess. They're not willing to give more of a shot to the new up and coming, writers that they have on their payroll for right now. But at the same time, it's just like, A, it's working.
Yeah.
But also, it's just like a lot of these dudes are going to have to give it up sooner rather than later anyway. So it's like right now, I think it's fine. He says, all the fresh stuff is limited to 6 issues or less. I get that. I definitely get that. I definitely feel that. I think he's right on that. I don't think this is like wrong. I just don't think that there's anything wrong with the first half of it.
For me, I see what this tweet is saying, and I see what you're saying as well. And I think the reason why I wanted to discuss it more is because I still think there's more context here, and I think there's multiple things can be true. Mark Waid and Scott Snyder, despite the work that they did in the past that is well regarded, their previous runs at DC did not go so hot. Snyder is very vocal about how he was going back and forth with Dan Didio every other day and how he had to fight to keep those Gotham books in line, especially during the New 52, because, we noticed the New 52, it didn't know what it wanted to do. I like it because I'm somebody that's reading it after the fact. But yes, The New 52 was not perfect, right? It was a lot of things was changing on the fly. And he was very vocal about that. So yes, as well as that Batman book was highly regarded, I've read some of it, but at the time it was coming out, it was a very tumultuous period for Scott Snyder, especially. And Mark Waid, to my understanding, he also didn't have the best time with Didio. So I think, with the regime change, with Dan Didio leaving, and Marie Javins coming in, and I feel like the door now for Waid and Snyder to come back and cook the way that they're cooking, I think it's important. And and you can even hear it in their interviews. It's like Waid sounds a little bit more passionate. Scott Snyder, we talk about it all the time. He can't keep his mouth closed. He couldn't keep his mouth closed to me when I saw him a couple months ago. Like, that brother is excited. And I'll throw in another one, Greg Rucka. I just heard his Word Balloon interview not too long ago. He also talks about the previous regime and how tumultuous it was, and he sounds more energized. Like, I'm excited for that Batwoman book. He's coming back, and he seems like, and he said this is the opportunity for me to come back and do what I couldn't do the first time around with Batwoman. So, like, with those parameters, I understand. And of course, these guys, Bendis at Marvel, I think that's more of a case of, hey, we need to rely on older folk for the sake of it. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Marvel editorial hasn't really changed much. Right? So it's kind of like Bendis is kind of coming back to a world that he was just familiar with. Versus, a Waid and Snyder who's coming back with a lot of fresh faces and a fresh editor-in-chief. Yeah, that's why I see the difference between the two. And then also, the fresh stuff, I consider fresh stuff in terms of creatives and also the books, right? Because, while you do have a Waid or while you do have a Snyder, who is also working alongside them to help push these stories? You have, Ram V. Ram V's New Gods that's just killing it right now. Like, that's a book where that's the excitement for it every single month. And it's part of the DC All-In story. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I'm collecting, but I'm not reading it month to month. You got to keep tabs on that book.
Yeah.
You got to keep tabs, right? We always talk about Nicole Maines. Like, I am of the opinion you couldn't read Absolute Power and understand where Dreamer was coming from if you didn't read Suicide Squad Dream Team. And Sure, it was a mini, but that was a even giving that title to somebody who's that fresh and doing what they did in 4 issues, that's dope.
Yeah.
And then you're giving them Justice League? What? I would argue Wade, Snyder, Williamson, and the people that's working under them, it's like a nice little ecosystem of like, yeah, you got the guys on top, but the work that the lower guys are doing, they're being built up also. So many of these guys have grown because they were under the Wades and the Snyder. So that's why I think DC is doing a better. Oh, let's throw Denise Camp as well.
Yeah.
That's why, at least on the DC side, I'm not mad at this. And I also see a scenario where, oh, shoot, if Wade and Snyder, when it's time for these guys to bounce out, I think the guys they're leaving over, I think it's in good hands. And I also want to give the editors their credit as well, because it's like none of this works without them. So like, I think the groundwork, I think everybody will be fine. And I'm not mad at this. In terms of the fresh stuff, like I said, we said it here perfectly. Like if it warrants, the support, then it gets extended. We've seen it playing. Me and you have talked about this a lot. If the support is not there for whatever reason, I mean, did the creative still get to tell their story in those 6 or 7 issues, and did they do a good job telling it? I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 times it's a yes. I think it's okay. Like I think this is a good place for us to be, and we'll somewhere down the line we'll see how things go. Like, if it was just to further the conversation, let's just say if it was like Mark Waid who was writing like 3 or 4 out of the big books.
Yeah.
And then Snyder and Williamson were writing like the later half. And then the new guys were just slop. Then I have an issue.
Yeah.
There's a solid distribution of work that's helping push the narratives of these companies, but also like building the audience, building the writers as well. I don't know, like, but what do you think about that?
I mean, you kind of nailed it on the head. I think, it definitely, obviously the other, solution to this is just read their indie stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously this, it's not really, inherently a solution to this big 2 problem to say, don't read big 2 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like at the same time, it's like, if people are kind of upset that Dennis Camp is not getting, I don't know, hypothetically, if he wasn't, I think he is, obviously. I don't think most people would say that he's not. But like hypothetically, if Dennis Camp wasn't getting, a fair share, at least, he wasn't getting as fair of a share as people think he deserves, right? He's got assorted crisis events right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Really good from what I'm hearing.
Low-key the best book he's got on the shelf right now. He's got 20th Century Men. Obviously, he did that already, but like, he's still there. Right. A lot of these other writers, they have stuff over on, different publications.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, they get other stuff, in other places. Like, I'm not really familiar with Cullen Bunn, but I did read he'd made like a Darth Maul mini like a few years ago. And it's like I kind of I kind of really like that mini, and I think like he's really cool. But like I don't really see a lot of the stuff that he writes for like Marvel and the big 2 in general. So I look for like his indie stuff, and he's obviously got like the 6 Gun, right? That went for a while, and he just published a full-on graphic novel. It's not even like a mini series, it's just a full-on graphic novel. Thinking about like reading that tonight or tomorrow or whatever. And that's just that's the other thing, is just that, again, it doesn't really fix the problem, but like it is a thing that you can do. People get hired for their non-big 2 work all the time. Like that's the thing, is that like you could also give them enough support with their indie work that they've got going on, that the big 2 are more compelled to give them higher priority projects.
I also kind of wanted to go back to the camp of it all, because I think he's a good name to kind of expound on a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like from I know Denise Camp did things before he blew up at Marvel, but I do want to give credit to Marvel. Yo, you can pretty much say that the Ultimate Universe, despite the fact that Hickman is the one that started it,
Yeah.
Camp has been the one to really push it.
Yeah.
And that's big for somebody that young. But that's probably why his Assorted Crisis book is also doing well right now, because it's like he's pretty much entrusted with like a gem.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, he went from, and normally people say this in like an insulting manner, but it is really just like how he was. Like, beyond 20th Century Men, like, nobody knew who this guy was.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's got top 5, in most people's eyes, books in all 3 of like the major like big 3 publishers. And he's like in charge of like a Hickman creation. Like, he assumes control of that. And like, that is, I don't know if he's got it in him to be like a Scott Snyder kind of architect of like an all-in, but like, if he's doing his job being in charge of Ultimate, I don't know, maybe let him do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I would want that. I'm just saying, like, if Bendis is going to come back to Marvel and he's only going to work on a passion project and he's not going to work on this, like, attempt at like an all-in, you know what? Fuck it, let Camp do it.
Yeah.
Zdarsky's probably not going to do it.
I mean, I was going to bring him up also. Like, the fact that Zdarsky right now is leading the charge to Armageddon, and what we are speculating is the all-in of Marvel, that's big too. I think that warrants a conversation, because for the most part, we know Zdarsky from Daredevil, we know him from Sex Criminals, we know him from
Batman. He did do a Batman book. I know we don't like talking about it, but he did do a Batman book.
He did do Batman.
He did Public Domain, right? Like, he's got he's got a career. He's got a career.
And like, to see where he went and now like guiding us towards the next phase of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
You can kind of consider him one of the fresher faces who's also being propped up as well. Whether despite the reception of, some of his previous works. Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good sign of faith right there. They deserve to get their credit also. To circle back to my point, it's okay if you have a Wade or a Snyder or a Bendis coming back. Fine, cool. They're doing great work. They might give us some McDonald's here and there, but you got the younger guys that are coming up behind them that's also doing amazing shit. So now that we're talking about it, I feel even better about the Marvel side, because now we have Camp to look forward to. Now we have Zdarsky to look forward to. Zdarsky wasn't that big of a player in the architect realm.
No.
So,
yeah, he literally, I mean, like, to contrast, like, how, I guess we should bring this up. The idea that they announced, that for his next Captain America arc, completely different now.
Yeah.
It was going to be like this whole thing about like, all these different other Captain Americas for other countries. And now it's just Nick Fury Jr. and another Shield, because he's now, in charge of Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he had to literally change his entire thing. So it's like, it's not like he's not, incredibly involved if he's literally, scrapping whole storylines to make sure that there is proper lead up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He is in the weeds with this, and he wasn't before. Maybe he should have been.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have been the whole time. I don't know. But either way, I think we're in a fine enough spot. I do think that this is more like a waiting game kind of thing. And, Camp's got enough as it is. But like, maybe Camp will be in Bendis's place, or where Bendis was for, the 2000s. Yeah. Maybe he and Zdarsky will be in Snyder and Williamson's place in due time. I don't know.
Or even Hickman, for all we know.
or Hickman. I don't know. He's
Yeah.
more like a setup guy now, so maybe he just maybe
Yeah.
he does the all in. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Like it's all these different things that could happen. I just hope that the restructuring of a lot of these characters, I hope it is very much kind of like a scenario where like all the books that are making money, they don't get
Shut
touched.
the fuck up. Ah, damn, neighbor's dog always barking at the wrong time. Shut the fuck up. All right, go keep going, bro.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we're doing like this, obviously it's probably just marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they say like, oh, it's the biggest shakeup since Disassembled, and it's just like, it's probably not. It's probably bullshit. But like hypothetically, if it is, please just don't touch the Thor book. Don't touch the Thor book. Don't touch the Moon Knight book. Give me another Ghost Rider. I don't care what else you do.
Yeah, to wrap up, like you said, it's a waiting game. For all we know, we may not see the changes, that we're talking about. And even, comics are dope, BJ Kicks, we may not see that until, the next 2 or 3 years as things progress.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But at least we can say now, definitively, things are looking a lot fresher than what they were a couple years ago. Because if you had asked me before, if you had asked me like in 2021, 2022, this shit was looking kind of stale. Despite the fact that I like some of it, this shit was stale. Now, when you think about how much comics have become part of the conversation, like across the board, yeah, I'm not giving that credit solely to Mark Waid and Scott Snyder and Bendis. Fuck no. I'm giving that credit to the new guys too. So if comics are in a better place now than what they were a couple years ago, nah, bro, it's top up and then it's trickling down to the bottom as well. Because those younger guys are part of the conversation. I love seeing Ram V being propped up the way he is right now, especially on the timeline. I love seeing, despite I may be hot and cold on him, I love seeing Camp's name in the mix.
Yeah.
I love seeing Ewing. I love seeing PKJ, Adams, and all these new names. I love that shit, bro. And to bring it back to Stephanie Phillips, yes, her too.
Yeah.
Her too.
Yeah,
So
I looked her up. She did the first like 20. I looked her up while we were talking about her.
mm-hmm.
She did the first 27 issues of the Harley Quinn book.
Oh shit. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, that's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think we're gonna see the changes, like for sure. And 2027, 2028, we are gonna see a change in regime, especially as the higher ups become more confident with the new guys. And I want to see that. Like, I like Wade, I like Snyder, I like Williamson, I like Bendis, but no, I want to start hearing Camp's name more. I want to start hearing Denise Camp is doing the next big Marvel event. Ram V is doing the next big DC event. I want to see that shit.
Yeah.
So let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. What do you think about the future of comics regarding the big two? Do you see it staying in quote unquote old man's game? Or do you see it growing from that, where we see some new faces coming in and really taking charge of the big two? Or do you not? Are me and Stef just talking a bunch of shit? We don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can have those opinions as well, and we'll gladly have a conversation with you down below in the comments. But that's about it. Thank you guys so much for checking out the content. And well, I would plug you, Stef, but you do not have a Twitter page anymore.
I don't.
So I guess we're just going to leave that alone. Thank you guys once again for checking out the content. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. Much love, much peace. Stef, thank you very much for popping in because I completely forgot you had access to the Hall of Justice or the Hall of Order.
Always fun. I'm going back to my cave now.
No, yeah. Hopefully we'll see you for the next one. Hopefully.
Yeah, you won't.
But yeah, guys. Again, be easy. Much love, much peace. It's your boy Roliver Queen. I will see you guys soon, and we are out.